ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु वज्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं हरिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च दानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते राधानाथ स्वामी नामिने नमः। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी परिचारिणे निर्विशेष पाश्चात्य कम करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वर। हरि ओम तत्सत्। हरे कृष्णा, वेलकम एवरीवन। So just give me 1 minute, I'll be back. I need to fetch something. Just a minute. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining for our continuation of the Bhagavatam, for our common good and for the good of the whole world. There's no better way than Hari Katha to purify ourselves and to develop our faith, enhance our devotion in all ways. So we're going to continue our discussion on the 17th chapter. The 17th chapter is entitled Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth. So at this particular part in the Srimad Bhagavat 4th canto, we are discussing the beautiful pastimes of the great Shaktavesha incarnation of the Lord, Prithu Maharaj, the son of Vena, the descendant of Dhruva. We have come to the point that Prithu Maharaj has been appointed as coronated as the king, greatly glorified by the Devatas, by the great sages, profusely gifted by various Devatas, very extraordinary, opulent gifts. And we spent a significant time in the last class discussing about in the 16th chapter how the bards glorified him. In fact, in 2 chapters, the bards have been glorifying him. And we discussed about his humble character and how he mildly protested the nature of the glorification, saying that I have not yet displayed these qualities. But of course, the bards continued to glorify him, being encouraged by the great sages, because the glorification which was given was prediction of his future qualities. And being the supreme personality of Godhead, he is infallible. It is not that maybe he will do it. So it is not that kind of a thing. The Supreme Lord is known as Achyuta. When he descends for a particular purpose, nobody can foil his purpose. It is not that you can plan, conspire, and fail the Lord's plan. Nobody can fail the Lord's plan. Just by willing, Swabhaviki Jnana Balakriya, everything becomes manifest just by the Lord's desire. That is the potency of the Lord. And he wills, his various energies are put into motion and they make things happen. Nobody can counteract it. The Lord's plan, especially Krishna's plan, is so powerful, is so strong. What to speak of other ordinary living entity, even the Lord's own other plenary expansions cannot alter it. Even Lord Balaram cannot alter Krishna's plan. Even if Lord Balaram tries to, the first expansion of Krishna feels that no, maybe I should, things should happen differently. Still doesn't happen. Krishna's desire is so powerful. And this we have seen in Mahabharata also. Many times Balramji had a slightly different opinion about how certain things should be done and how certain things should manifest. But whenever Krishna didn't agree, Krishna's will always supersede it. Of course, this is also part of pastime when it is between the different incarnations of the Lord. But the key point being that nobody can foil the plan of the Lord. So why we are mentioning this is when certain things are predicted about a particular incarnation of the Lord, they have come for that purpose. Nobody can say that now we will unite. It's not politics that many parties can come together and now foil the plan of the incumbent leader and then overthrow him and take over power. It doesn't work like that. The Lord is the supreme controller of all controllers. So anyways, it was quite certain and the sages told this is what the Lord is going to do, and the musicians, the singers had such confidence, they went on and glorified. And there were certain very beautiful things that they mentioned about the future activities of King Prithu. And in the subsequent chapters, these beautiful pastimes, which have been hinted of at the time of his coronation, are going to be explained. 4 or 5 prominent ones were mentioned. What was mentioned in the last chapter? Amongst the predictions, first he will control and subdue all the demoniac forces. Anybody remembers any other prediction? Anyone remembers?
He will milk the planet.
Sorry, one at a time. Yeah,
He will
Amit?
milk the Earth planet.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Amit. Again.
He will milk the Earth planet.
Very good. Yeah, he will milk the earth. Yes, one prediction. Santanam Prabhu, what else?
100 Ashwamedha Yagas he will perform.
Yes, he will perform 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas. What else was predicted?
Lord Indra would steal the horse in the 100th Yajna.
Very good. Yes. What else? One more thing was predicted.
He will meet 4 Kumaras and learn spiritual knowledge.
Very good. Haribo. Jai Ho. Wonderful. Yeah. Anything else? At least this is as far as I remember.
He will flatten all the mountains.
Very good. Yes. He'll flatten on the mountains and he will develop towns and agriculture. Excuse me. So, some of these beautiful pastimes were hinted at, and the next few chapters actually elaborate these beautiful pastimes. Each of these pastimes are very, very sweet and have many wonderful lessons. So let us continue. We are moving into chapter 17. So chapter 17 starts by saying that after all the bards did all this wonderful glorification. Prithu Maharaj, even though he did some protest, but ultimately he was satisfied because he knew that they were doing the right thing from their side. And they were so eager to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna very much appreciates his devotees' eagerness to speak about him, to glorify about him, because that is considered as the sign of love. So Prithu Maharaj reciprocated with these bards by giving them various gifts, and he appreciated them. So according to the proper system and protocols, the king also honored them. And the king also reciprocated with all the various categories who had gathered there, according to their according to the right protocol. Whether it was the great Brahman leaders or the leaders of various other communities, leaders amongst the Vaishyas, amongst the servants, the various ministers who had gathered there, the various priests and Purohit who were helping with the various ceremonies, the citizens who had gathered, the Praja, and all various categories of people. So as this was happening, Viduraji, because this pastime is being narrated between Vidura and by Maitreyaji to Vidura. So Vidura became very curious, as always. This is a standard trait in the Bhagavad, that when the speaker speaks about something and refers to some other pastime with some brief statements, the listener quickly catches. You mentioned this, but you didn't tell the story. You mentioned this, but you didn't tell the full story. So they don't want the Harikatha to stop. They want to go on and on. They're not thinking, oh, lunchtime, come, let's go, enough. Both ho gaya. Let us listen to this another day. No, they are very eager. So Vidurji asked all these questions to Maitreya Muni, saying, please describe. You spoke so many things which were predicted about Prithu Maharaj. You mentioned about the earth being milked, just like a cow would be milked. Why did earth take the form of a cow? What happened? Please explain that to me. And for milking, generally there is a calf who's needed to milk, because in the process of milking, in the traditional way, first a calf is brought to the cow. First the calf drinks milk for a little while, and when the cow sees the calf, she lets her milk flow. So the calf drinks a little, and then when the calf is taken away, then the mother cow continues to give her milk, and then that is when the milkman takes. So who was the calf? Means who encouraged the flow of the milk? And what was the vessel which was used to collect that milk? While Prithu Maharaj was acting as the milkman, because he is the one who milked. But who was the calf and what was the milking pot? Because this is a metaphor, right? This is a metaphor. So he's in the metaphor. If you are saying that he milked the cow, then that means there must have been an equivalent of a calf, and there must have been an equivalent of a milking pot. So essentially what Viduraji is asking Maitreya is, please tell me that whole story. What all happened? I want to know in all the details. And you mentioned about Prithu Maharaj flattening the earth. Tell me more about it. How did he flatten the earth? And what was this thing you mentioned about Indra stealing the horse? This is far out. This is great suspense. Indra is such a great personality. He's the king of the Devatas, and he is stealing a horse. So I want to know. And you mentioned how Prithu Maharaj will get transcendental knowledge, perfect knowledge from his gurus, the four Kumaras, the Sanat Kumaras. Please tell me about that and what destination Prithu Maharaj attained after getting that knowledge. And describe all the other things you think which are which will be so wonderful for us to hear in terms of his glorious characters. Because such kind of hearing itself is good fortune. See, this is the amazing thing about hearing Harikatha, that hearing Harikatha is itself punya, so to say, spiritual punya, not material punya, spiritual punya. Of course, if we hear with a material mentality, it becomes material punya. But if we hear with a spiritual eagerness, it becomes a spiritual merit. So the questions that were asked, these 5 or 6 questions that were asked by Vidura to Maitreya about Maharaj, are practically answered in the next 4 to 5 chapters. So all that Vidura did was, all the predictions that we just mentioned, he picked on all of them. He said, tell me more about this, tell me more about this, tell me more about this. So practically there are chapters dedicated to answering each of these wonderful episodes. So Maitreya Muni is very happy. He's very pleased with Vidura's inquiries and he praised Vidura, and then he started speaking. So the first pastime he speaks is with respect to the earth taking the form of a cow. Now he narrates the circumstances, that particular story. He says, after Prithu Maharaj became a king, at one point in time, there was a lot of famine in the country. Now please understand that the setting of this particular pastime is way ahead, and like what I mentioned, a very organized society did not exist at that time. Most people were living in mountains, in forests, and society wasn't so very well organized, and that is why there wasn't organized agriculture and so many other activities around trade, commerce, etc., etc. People were living very simple lives close to nature. Of course, that has its good side and that has its bad side also. Bad side in the sense that when things go bad, it is harder to manage. So at one time, the citizens came to Prithu Maharaj and started complaining to Prithu Maharaj that, oh protector, oh king, we are really, really struggling. We are suffering. Why? Because we don't have anything to eat. We are starving. We are terribly starving and we need your help. You are our shelter. You are the representative of the Lord. And you are supposed to make sure that we get our livelihood. You are our Vrittikara Patirnaha. You are supposed to be a Lokapala, the protector of all the citizens. So please do something so that our hunger is satisfied, because now the hunger has become intolerable. And Prithu Maharaj was quite disturbed because this is such a basic need. This is not that they are asking for cinemas or discos or cheap liquor or reducing petrol prices. No, they're not asking for such. They are asking for the most basic things. So at least the king must provide to everybody to be able to peacefully earn a livelihood. So their basic needs of food, water, shelter, clothing, and justice are taken care of. Of course, there are so many other things, but these are the most basic. So Prithu Maharaj started contemplating, because Prithu Maharaj didn't want to quickly respond. Sometimes when problem comes, we take a very knee-jerk reaction to try to solve it, because we look at the problem at a very external level. So Prithu Maharaj was reflecting a lot because he wanted to understand the root cause of the problem. Why is this happening? So eventually he realized that this was not because of any black marketing or the farmers doing a protest or something like that. The basic reason this problem was that earth was not producing enough grains. So when he came to that conclusion that earth was not producing sufficient grains, Prithu Maharaj became very upset. Because he understood that the earth is withholding. Now his expectation as the king was that the earth should not withhold. The earth should supply whatever is needed for the living entities. What is this? If the earth starts withholding, earth is the mother, if she starts withholding nourishing of the citizens, then how will there be happiness and prosperity? So he became actually terribly angry at the earth as the king. So he actually took his bow in his hand, an arrow, and set about to punish Mother Earth. Now, Prithumar, if we say I'm going to punish Mother Earth, nothing is going to happen. Nobody is going to bother. We cannot even find Mother Earth to punish her. When we're talking about Mother Earth, we are talking about the goddess, the predominating deity who's in charge of the Bhumandal. But when he took up his bow and arrow, Mother Earth became actually very scared. Because she knew that he had the capacity to find her and shoot her. In fact, as soon as Maharaj Prithus started chasing her with his bow and arrow, the earth, Bhumi Devi, started trembling out of fear. And she immediately did one tactic. What was the tactic? She transformed herself into the shape of a cow. Why? Because in Vedic culture, nobody attacks a cow. So she was thinking, oh, if I take the form of a cow, then, Maharaj Prithu will spare me. He will not punish me. And she took the form of a cow and she also fled. So Prithu Maharaj didn't stop. He was chasing her, even in the form of a cow, just like a hunter chases a deer. This is how the Bhagavatam says. So Prithu Maharaj, rather than feeling sympathy, actually became even more angry at Mother Earth because she took this kind of a form. And he continued to chase her no matter where she went. Finally, Mother Earth realized that, because see, the kings of those times, they were not just ordinary humans. They had great mystic powers also. They're not just ordinary people like us, Mother Earth takes the form of a cow and, goes somewhere. Yeah, we cannot sit in our car and say, I will chase her in my Toyota or Honda. So she's a subtle demigoddess. You cannot access her at a gross realm. But Maharaj Prithu was a very advanced soul, an incarnation of the Lord, a Shaktavish incarnation. He was able to chase her no matter where she went. And it seems that she practically traveled quite a bit to try to escape from him. But it didn't work. So finally, when she realized the futility of trying to escape, she realized that she is going to be punished. She finally turned to him in helplessness. So one thing about an honorable great Kshatriya is that even if the worst enemy surrenders to them, it becomes the duty of the Kshatriya to protect those who have taken shelter. So at least in the Kshatriya culture, the Vedic culture, this was the standard of behavior. Even if your worst enemy surrenders, you don't kill. So Mother Earth took that approach and she pleaded to Prithu Maharaj, please, O king, don't kill me. And she started giving various reasons. You know all religious principles, you are Dharmajna, and you are the protector of those who are in danger, Apanna Vatsala. As a king, it is your duty to protect all subjects, and in one sense, I am also one of your subjects because you're ruling the earth planet. And I am, after all, such a poor soul. And I'm actually not even sinful. Normally, punishment should be given to those who are sinful. So why are you trying to kill me? How can a learned person kill a woman? A woman is not to be killed even if she has a fault, and I have no fault. A woman, even if she is a criminal, according to traditional Vedic codes, was never given a death punishment, even though there were other means to punish her. Children, old men, women were protected. They were not given death punishment. So you should be kind and merciful because of all these reasons. And please understand, you are killing me. I am earth. I am the platform on which all the living entities are based. If you kill me, you know what will happen? Sometimes once you plead, and sometimes you also, along with the pleading, you say, see, if you don't listen, this will happen. So you want to make arguments in both sides. I'm telling you nicely, but if you don't listen, if you do this, this will be the consequence. Of course, she didn't give him threat, but she said that if you were to kill me, just think what will happen. I am earth. I am holding all the living entities on me, and I'm just above the Garbhodaka ocean. Remember what happened earlier? When I go off balance, the Bhumandal collapses into the Garbhodaka ocean. You know, this happened Varadev's pastime. Of course, that time the collapse happened because of a different reason, but a similar collapse will happen if you kill me. So you are the king. You should think of all these consequences also. Don't be rash in your attempts to punish me. So Prithu Maharaj is, of course, very smart, very intelligent, and dharmagya. See, a person who's very well versed in dharma is able to cut through and defeat the inaccurate or incorrect arguments of the other party. Sometimes some people argue in such a way, whether about religion or in general, even in politics and in various settings, people argue in such a way that a listener will think, wow, this is such wonderful logic. This is such a wonderful argument. But a person who knows the principles of religion properly can easily see through the flaws in the argument of the other party. That is why even in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna made so much wonderful arguments. This will happen, Krishna, if I fight, that will happen, this will happen, sin will come, how will I enjoy? Varna Sankar will happen, this will happen. So many arguments. And Krishna cut down everything by just saying, Ashochan Vashochastam Pradnyavadan Shabashse Gatasun Agatasun Shananu Shochan. You're talking like a Pandit, but actually you are a fool. You're talking like a Pandit. So any person who's not very learned will think you are a Pandit. Actually, you are not a Pandit because you are not understood the basic principles guiding proper understanding of knowledge. So Prithu Maharaj countered what would typically seem as very rational arguments by Bhumi Devi. So first thing he said, told her, you said you have not committed sins, but you have. And what is the sin you have committed for which I am punishing you? You have disobeyed my orders. You should have provided whatever the living entities on earth need, but you did not provide. And especially as the demigoddess Earth, as Bhumi Devi, Prithvi Devi, when the yajnas were performed by the citizens, you did accept all your shares of the yajna performance, but you did not give in return the gifts that you are supposed to bestow. So this is again a very important and interesting principle. If you recollect, the same principle Krishna mentions in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where he explains the concept of yajna, where Krishna says that the system of yajna is that the living entity is following the principles of yajna, worship the devatas who are in charge of the various facilities of material nature, and they satisfy them through performance of yajna, and in return paraspara bhavayantam, the devatas bless bountiful gifts of nature to the people who perform the yajna so that they can live happily and comfortably. Maharaj Prithus is saying, we did yajnas, my praja did yajnas, you took your share. It's like, when a payment is made, the goods should be delivered. No, the devatas are not doing favor. The devatas are getting their share. It's like, you go to the electricity department, pay the bill, and you get electricity. So electricity department is not doing favor for you, or the water department is not doing favor for you, or your condominium is not doing favor for you, because you're paying the condominium maintenance fee every month. So he's saying, Prithumar is saying that we paid you the dues to you, but you are not doing your job properly. That is your sin. And because of that sin, we need to punish you. You're like a cow who's eating grass, so much grass, but nothing is coming in the form of milk. So the universal system is such that the whole concept of yajna is there is always a give and take. So Prithumara's accusation to Prithvi was, you are saying you're sinless, but your sin is this, you took, but you didn't give. And the same principle Krishna mentions, of course, in the other side, not about the devatas, but in the context that he who takes but doesn't give back is a thief. Stena eva saha. And the same thing for the devatas. If we as living entities do something for the devatas are obliged. They cannot say, I'll think about it, I will do it next year. No. You are masters of certain universal departments. You have to do your function. So what you are doing, Mother Earth, I have noticed, Prithu Maharaj is saying is, there are a lot of seeds and various kinds of plants and grains which Brahmaji created when he manifested all these planetary systems, especially this Bhumandal. But all these seeds which are necessary for the various grain, fruit, vegetable bearing plants to come on earth, you are hiding all those seeds. They're not being manifest. And because those plants are not being manifest and those trees and plants and grains and crops are not coming up, people are suffering. They barely have adequate to eat. So he explains to her first why, according to him, that she is not without any fault. So that was one of the things. Then he starts answering the section around where she takes the form of a cow. So he says, see, don't think just because you've taken the form of a cow that you can escape. If you cause my citizens to starve, if you cause the citizens to starve, I will not hesitate to kill you. In fact, I will not even hesitate to kill you and feed your flesh to the citizens because they are starving. That's a very interesting statement which Prithu Maharaj makes. And the Acharyas comment that even though in the Vedic culture a cow is always protected and a cow is never killed, if there is an extreme situation of acute shortage of food, then if a dried up cow, an aged cow who doesn't give milk, may be utilized to feed the masses of the people to prevent them from dying. So this is a very emergency situation. So the point is while the Vedic literatures do not encourage meat eating of any sort, but at the same time, the Vedic literatures are very practical in terms of their approach. What they say is the human life is always more important than others. So if it is a matter of choosing between human life and another life, then one has to protect one life. Of course, violence should be minimized, and cow will be the last option. But what Prithum Maharaj was saying is that if everybody is going to die, then I will not even hesitate to go down this path. So don't think I will not kill you because you're a cow. That's what he's saying. So don't think you can escape by this tactic. And also don't think that you can escape because you are taken the form of a woman. Because a cow is a female form. And you are saying that I cannot be punished because I'm a woman. There are examples in Shastra. If a woman is extremely cruel, it doesn't matter. When a person is cruel, even if it's a woman, if they are simply interested in their own selfish interest and have become very cruel, Atma Sambhavanaha and Niranukroshaha, merciless, such people deserve to be punished and killed. Such people deserve. There is no fault in killing a woman in such circumstances. Any of you remember any other incarnation of the Lord killing a woman? Anybody remembers? Under similar circumstances like what we just discussed.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. How about Putana? He was sucked.
Yeah, correct. So Krishna is killing Putana because she was so merciless, selfish that she was killing so many babies by giving them poison. Good. Anyone else? Any other example? Sorry, Santanam Prabhu, you said something.
Rama killing Tadaka.
Yes, very good. Ram killing Tadaka. I don't know why I'm feeling so thirsty today. Sorry. So that was another example. Normally, the Lord would not do like that. So at one point, even Lord Ram hesitated, but then Vishwamitra said, no, don't look at her as a woman. She's a Rakshasi. She eats humans alive. She's a merciless character. So that is why even though Dharma has certain rules, one should understand that these rules are not absolute. So that's why I'm saying the Vedas are very practical. The Vedas are not, some set of foolish, unbendable rules which must be followed, without applying logic. So certain rules are because generally certain categories deserve to be treated in a particular way, but there are always exceptions. And so those exceptions are also mentioned. And Prabhupada would also often do this, even in the context of Krishna consciousness. Even for certain rules of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada would, in special situations, give exceptions to his devotees. So yes, I will kill you even if you take the form of a woman. I will kill you even if you are in the form of a cow. No problem, no problem. And you have a fault. There's no problem in my punishing you. So Mother Earth was running out of arguments. And then finally you said, oh, you're trying to scare me by saying the whole earth will fall into, Garbhodak ocean. Correct? Are you trying to scare me? Don't worry. I'm incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. I will stop the earth from falling into the Garbhodak ocean by my mystic power. Don't worry about that. Don't think you can escape by creating a scare. Sometimes some people want to escape punishment by creating a scare. If you catch me, if you punish me, my whole community will rebel, come out on the streets and create a ruckus. So this kind of threats, consequence based, not justice based or logic based, consequence based. If this is done to me, this is what will happen and you will get into trouble. better you don't touch me. So Prithumara is saying, I am capable. I will hold up the whole Bhumandal by my mystic potency. So don't worry. Earlier Varadev delivered, now I am the incarnation of the Lord. So that you don't have to worry. So when all her arguments were countered by Prithu Maharaj, by his higher intelligence, how to all these rules, he knew what was the exception and he applied that exception and argued based on that with Bhumi Devi and pointed out how her arguments were correct. So when Bhumi Devi realized, oh, death personified is standing in front of her, she began to tremble and she surrendered unto Maharaj. She folded her hands. She realized that, Maharaj is capable. He is the incarnation of the Lord. He can do what he wants. If he really wants, then he can actually punish. So then she changes her approach and then she comes in front of Prithu Maharaj in a different way. She positions herself as a part and parcel of the universal system by saying, please understand, initially she was saying, I'm a sinless woman, I'm a cow, I'm this will happen, that will happen. Now she said, no, Lord, but you see, I am, so I am part of a universal form. How can you destroy a universal form? I am playing a particular role within the universal body. And then she offers various prayers. There are actually many beautiful arguments, but I'm not going to go through all of them. But I will just mention a few. She starts praying to the Lord by saying that you have created this entire cosmic manifestation by your material energy. And you are actually transcendental to this material nature. And you are never affected. You are absolutely transcendental. And you are also independent because you have only created me as the resting place for all living entities. So, Lord, please think about it. Does it make sense? You have created this system. You have created me as the base. Would it look good for you now to kill me because you had created me as a resting place for living entities? If you kill the resting place of the living entities, it will not look good on you. So, in that way, she continues to argue. Then she says, oh Lord, you create all living entities by your inconceivable potency, and you are now maintaining and protecting them. So because you are the protector of religion, you should not be anxious to kill me. So many arguments she makes. I'm not going to go into the technicalities. She glorifies the Lord as the energies. She says that, everybody is bewildered by your Maya and so on. So she also glorifies the Lord in various ways. But net, the argument that Mother Earth presents in front of Prithu Maharaj in this last section of this chapter is essentially she's saying that, oh Lord, please remember, I am your very dear devotee. You are Dhara Dhara. I am Dhara and you are Dhara. You had protected me as Varaha. Remember? And I was collapsing into the Garbhoda question earlier. And in that time, I bore your children. And now also all the people on the earth are like my children and I am nourishing them with my milk. And please understand, oh Lord, I am still a mother. I was a mother at that time and I am still a mother. Please try to understand the reason I am withholding the grains, the seeds from all these living entities on earth now is not because I am negligent of my duties. It's not because I'm negligent of my duties, but I am doing it deliberately because many people have become evil in their ways. And when people become evil, it becomes the duty of the parents to punish them so that the children learn the right lesson and rectify themselves. So, in the spirit of rectifying them, I withheld the goodies of the earth from them. So, I just want to clarify this is my explanation. Since you have given me a show cause notice, this is my explanation that this is the actual reason. I was not negligent, but I wanted to rectify them by withholding. Because sometimes some people just don't learn until they are punished. Good advice works with some people, but some people don't learn with advice. They need punishment to realize the mistake and to rectify. So that is the reason I withheld. And why I'm doing all this? Because this whole system of giving things to those who deserve and those who follow the rules is your system, not my system. I'm just a part of the universal system. I'm just following the system you made. So why punish me? It's very interesting. The way they are arguing is so interesting. Sometimes you wonder who's right. That's what it says. Dharmasya tattva nihito guhaya mahajano yena tatasam. The tattva of dharma, of religion is actually so subtle. Sometimes it becomes very difficult. This also seems correct. This also seems correct. This also seems correct. So the conversation stops at this point in the chapter. The conversation has not ended. The conversation continues into the next chapter because Prithu was still not satisfied with whatever Mother Prithvi had said. But that was the last argument, that she says that, I am bewildered by the way you are behaving. Because I believe I'm still doing the right thing because I'm following your system and withholding because of this reason. And I am created by you and I am part of the system. And if you are not merciful to me, then the fame of charitable persons will be lost. So that is why you should not punish me. So very, very interesting. So the discussion continues. There are a few more interesting arguments. But net in the next chapter, Prithu Maharaj, of course, has his way. And he forces Bhumi Devi to relent. And net, the argument that the Lord gives is no, yes, all may be the case, but you have to understand. All your arguments may be okay, but now I am the boss, no? And I, as the boss, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is telling you, release. Then you must release. You have to listen to me. You can't go on arguing according to your system and your calculation. And I am telling you to release, why you're not releasing. That is the problem. But that is explained in the next chapter. But ultimately, Mother Prithvi relents and agrees to the demands of Prithu Maharaj. But we'll come to that discussion in the next chapter. So these are some of the beautiful lessons. I'm going to open up the floor. It's almost 9:53. Any comments, any questions that you have?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, there is this saying, the boss is always right.
The boss is always right.
So,
Here the boss is the perfect boss. So he's truly right. It's
so
not just right by a technical reason, but yeah.
okay,
Yes,
Prabhu,
Prabhu.
my my question is that the word concept of thief, as you are mentioned earlier. So basically, you were also were saying that when we do yajna and all, as in what offering to the devas or even the what Supreme Lord himself,
Yeah.
but the reality is that at times maybe when we do this yajna with a certain motive to what get some expected results and so on. So the actual fact is that sometimes what we intend to have
Mm.
doesn't happen. How do we reconcile this one thing, Prabhu? Because we are doing a yajna
Mm.
for a particular purpose. So if that particular thing is achieved, then can we say that it was accepted, or if it doesn't happen, I mean, it was not accepted. So how do we reconcile back with the earlier concept you was sharing, that regarding the particular concept involving the thief, Prabhu? I mean, I I I hope I managed to explain to you what I wanted to ask, Prabhu.
Okay, I'm not very sure what is the essence of the question. See, the thing is that if one performs one's yajna properly, I'm talking now at a material level. Um, Ideally, of course, yajna should be done for pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even when the yajna is done for a devata and understands that the ultimate beneficiary of the yajna is Vishnu. Correct? That Uptaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwara. The Lord is the beneficiary because all the devatas are working under the shelter of Vishnu. So our duty is to perform our duty perfectly. But sometimes what happens is, like in the previous pastime, uh, when King Vena performed the sacrifice, he saw that the devatas did not come in the sacrifice to accept the offerings. And then he realized and he uh, figured out that you know, it was because of some past sins. So there are situations like this. So what we are experiencing today now is the net result of not just what we are doing now, but also our past activities. So it doesn't mean that if I perform a yajna now, and if I don't get the immediately the result of that yajna now, that means that yajna is faulty. It is not necessarily like that. Correct? Just like I may go to the electricity department and pay this month's bill, but my electricity may still get cut. Why? Because my previous 3 months was outstanding. I didn't pay that. I just paid this month. So I cannot argue, oh, I paid for this month. Why you still cut my electricity? It doesn't mean that my this month's bill paying was faulty. It means that there is a cumulative consideration as of this moment, which includes past and present activities. So for us as living entities, we will not know what is the cumulative. But we trust the system because the system is working under the arrangement of the Supreme Lord and there is justice. We know that justice is done always, even though at certain times it may appear injustice to us. But certain things come to us in the form of karma because there is a net deficit sometime, and that's why it comes in the form of a punishment. to us, even though we may feel that what is it that I have done wrong now? I have done everything correct according to my duty, according to the process of yajna, whatever it is. So the point is, for us at this moment, we can only continue to do our duty perfectly. So to answer one of your questions, it is not that just because we perform a yajna now means necessarily uh, the effect will be like that. But the principle is always true. If you pay the bill, you will get the goodies, whatever they are. You understand this point, Prabhu?
Yes, 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 Prabhu.
Yeah. So if you don't, then you are a thief. You are taking, but you are not paying. Now, some people may wonder, oh, in this Kali Yuga, we are not performing yajna. What to do? So Prabhupada across the Gita, Bhagavatam purports again and again mentions that for us in Kali Yuga, because this whole system of the Karma Kandik Yajna system has broken down, the best way for us in the current situation is to do Sankirtana Yajna. We do the Yajna of the chanting of the holy names. And this is approved in Kali Yuga as the topmost Yajna. What this means is, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yajna Nam Japa Yajñosmi. Of all the Yajnas, I am the chanting of the holy name. The Bhagavatam also it is said, Nama Sankirtana Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam. That the topmost process is that of Harinam Sankirtan. In fact, it is also said, Yajnai Sankirtanai Praye Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. The Supreme Lord is worshipped in the age of Kali by intelligent people through the Yajna of Sankirtan. So there is ample scriptural proof in that regard. So in our present situation, it is not necessary for us to execute different types of yajnas to please Indra, Surya, Bhumi, and so on and so forth. But we follow the process of the Bhagavat, that if we water the root of the tree, automatically all the branches, twigs, leaves automatically get satisfied. So we take that process because it is not possible for us to follow other processes, even if we wanted to, because the processes themselves have practically disappeared or there is no qualified person to perform them. So for us as devotees, we should do yajna in two ways. One is, yajna is also the performance of prescribed duty. So if the prescribed duty is done with detachment and as a dedication to the Lord, that is the yajna. And on top of that, the most important yajna is the chanting of the holy names. So if these two things we do regularly, then we can be sure that whatever our needs are, we have paid our due taxes to the universal system to get those needs fulfilled. But does that mean everything will work out? Just like, we say, no, I have become a devotee. Why am I still being punished? I'm chanting Hare Krishna. I've given up sinful activities. Why still bad happened to me? The reason is because you have stopped now, but you have so much account. You have so much, past records. It takes a bit of a time to settle all these things and, come out of that. So the point is, just because we do something, whether yajna, sankirtan or otherwise, doesn't mean that the result necessarily has to be immediate. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure whether.
Yes, Prabhu, because at the end of the day, I mean, we be rather than only one looking at now, we also have to look at our past track records. I mean, how, as you were also telling, how much of dues we would still have, either is good or bad. So okay, Prabhu, thanks.
Yeah. So as sadhakas, we always surrender and depend on the Lord. So the Lord takes care. The Lord will minimize our past dues. Correct? He will minimize, just like sometimes you may have a big loan, but if you are unable to pay, sometimes the company, the lending company may just say, okay, you just pay, so much percentage of it and let us settle it without blacklisting you. So, yeah. So the Lord, tries to accommodate the devotees as far as possible and try to do that. Of course, the Lord does everything in a way so that the devotee learns the lesson. That is part of the system. Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else? Anything? Great. So thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. So we will meet now on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll conclude the Bhagavad Gita on Wednesday. I think verses 68 onwards, if I'm not wrong, 67 or 68 onwards. 67 onwards, I think, up to 78. And then we'll discuss on Wednesday how we take our path forward with respect to Bhagavad Gita. Anybody has any other thoughts with respect to our discussion on the Bhagavad Gita that we discussed? So we can discuss, of course, next time, and then we can finalize it. Some of you shared some thoughts with me offline. So I have taken those points into consideration as well. Okay, so thank you all very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Maharaj ki Jai, all of you ki Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Santanam Prabhu, Suniti, thank you. Hari Hari, thank you. Pratima ji, thank you very much.
Krishna
Nice
Prabhuji,
to see
thank you
you.
so much.
Hari
Hare
Hari.
Krishna and thank you,
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Sachi Prema Mata ji. Ravindra ji, Hare Krishna. Ashwin, you're growing mustache.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yes.
Hare
Good,
Krishna,
I'm seeing you after
Prabhuji.
so many years. Sapna ji, yes, Hare Krishna. Hemant, nice to see you also. Bhaskar, Sneha ji, Archana ji,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I'll
Thank you,
see you all
Prabhuji.
very soon. Thank you, Amit. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Bol. Hare Bol. How are you, Renuka ji? Today your video is very
I'm
clear.
fine. Thank you. How are you, Prabhuji?
I am well. I am well.
Yeah, this is our.
This is our.
No, this is our handphone because the thing is I think our desktop, the camera is not very clear.
This is so much better. Nowadays, phones are better than desktops, I think.
Yeah.
This is the handphone camera.
Yeah, I'm feeling as if I'm seeing you face to face. Otherwise, I don't get, because also on the desktop you put the virtual background. Somehow
Backdrop.
it doesn't give.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
sometimes your
Not very
faces
clear.
appear, they disappear. Appear as if you are peeping out from the clouds. Like Devatas coming and looking at
It's a
the
good
class
one.
and going back. Hari Hari.
From the celestial
Need
world.
some distance. Huh?
From the celestial world.
Yes, from the
Hare Krishna,
celestial world.
Prabhuji. Big boy, Ashwin.
Hare
Yeah, Ashwin has become a big boy now. Okay, great, wonderful, nice to see you all.